As one of the most respected American Indian jewelry makers the world over, Ben Nighthorse Campbell celebrates the culture of his people every day. Native American cultural practices and philosophies inspire his designs, which are in the hands of 5 United States presidents. Campbell, a former U.S. Senator, spoke with local filmmaker Brian Malone about his take on creativity and more.
I'm absolutely convinced that the enemy of creativity is stress. One time I told a friend, in fact, when he asked me what was the difference between the political world and the artistic world, and I told him in the artistic world, you strive for creativity. In the political world, you get creative, you scare a lot of people. It is a form of therapy to work on it, and you have to have pretty much total concentration. Maybe you do with any art form, but with jewelry you're working with high-speed tools and diamond saws and things that can, cut your finger off if you're not careful. So if you don't focus, you can get hurt. And that's the way we do it. All artists have sort of a twilight zone. You're not completely awake, but maybe you're not completely asleep either. Sometimes I'll wake up in the middle of the night and I've got a paper and a pencil, and maybe 2 or 3 designs will kind of come to me, and I sketch them because I'm afraid I'll forget them by morning. By morning, maybe they don't look so good, but a lot of times they say, that looks all right, and so I'll lay it out. So this piece I made for the Smithsonian, the National Museum of the American Indian. Native people often say when you make decisions, you should think in terms of 7 generations. And I call this piece the Council Fire of the 7 Generations. You make that decision, you should think, what would my parents have done? What would my grandparents have done? What would my great-grandparents have done under this situation? Then you think the other way. How's this going to affect my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren? That's 6. You're in the middle. So each one of these arrows represents one of those generations. Your kids, your grandkids, your great-grandkids, your folks, grandparents, great-grandparents, all pointing to the central fire, which is the coming together of a decision when you make your decision. Native people, the traditional people, they don't believe that you created anything. And they believe that there's a force that flows through you. That every child born, the Creator puts a seed inside of you. But it's up to you to nourish that seed and to expand that seed and to develop that seed and to share it with people. I know most of my designs, if I try to engineer them, they just don't work right for me. They just don't look right and they don't feel right. But when they come that way, in that sort of a twilight zone, then they seem to work pretty good. There's a whole bunch of reasons, I suppose, why art's important, but I think if you got right down to what is the single most important thing, and that's if it gives you satisfaction in doing it.
As we just learned, jewelry maker Ben Nighthorse Campbell draws influence from both his heritage and nature. Rock art is one of those natural influences, and for this week's Arts Quiz, we're asking you, what exactly is rock art? Is it A, fossils, B, petroglyphs, or C, natural coloration of rock layers? The answer coming up.